I think that it'll be a very physical game. Texas, of course, is a fine football team, and it's probably the most physical team we've played in quite a while, and for certain this year. So I think it'll be a very physical, hard-hitting game.
I'm sure you're looking forward to it.
Very much. I think the loss of Tennessee set us back a little bit, but gave us a little bit to shoot for down here. I think that everybody wants to perform well and give a good account of themselves down here.
Texas and Pennsylvania, I think, are the most productive states in high school players, so it's fitting, and I think it'd be the best game. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know about that, but I do know that Texas and Pennsylvania do produce some of the better football players in the country every year, and you learn most of your football when you're younger, and so I'm sure this will have some kind of bearing on the game.
Who will you be playing against?
I'm not exactly sure. His number's 31 now. He's a good ball player. He's not real big, but he's very quick, and I'm sure I'll be in for a rough afternoon.
Will there be something going for you fellows next Saturday representing the East after although in good-natured fun, all of the flack that's gone on between Penn State and Texas and the areas?
I suppose in a sense we will be, but I don't think we really see ourselves as a crusader for the East. We, of course, want to win, and I think we want to do it mostly for ourselves and the people involved in our program. I don't think we're really carrying the banner. If we won, I'm sure it would help, Eastern football quite a bit.
Bob, do you feel being an ex-quarterback helps you at the tight end?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I think it did because I knew the pass patterns, and all I had to do is learn how to block and how to learn how to run them. It really did help me, I think.
Does Huffnagel go to his tight ends very often?
Well, this year I was a leading receiver. I caught 30 passes, and I think the next person who was in line was 12. So it's this year. This year I don't know why. It just seems that we went to the tight end more.
What luck did you have personally against TCU?
TCU, I think I caught 5 passes for 110 yards, and that was about it. That was my highest game. That was my best game this season, except for Tennessee, which I caught 6, which we lost anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Could you explain a little bit about the Tennessee game? You played a good game, but just those turnovers were there, weren't they?
Yeah, I think if we wouldn't have had so many turnovers, I mean, we had a bad day, and Tennessee was a good team. But I think if we would have played up to par like we did against the other teams, I think we could have given them a better run than we did.
What are your personal feelings about playing Texas?
Texas, I think, it's going to be a good game. I think they're a great team. It's national recognition now that they have, and just to beat Texas, just to play against Texas is just a great honor, I think.
Well, I never compare teams. I don't think it's fair that the team, what you give to one, you take away from the other. So I've been reluctant to compare with them. They're a good football team, this team, but I think they've got to do something big before you can rate them with a couple of the other clubs we've had.
Would you say beating Texas then would be something big?
Well, I think that would. Yeah, I think if they could do a good job against Texas, why then I think we could talk about them being a good football team.
You could break the team apart. For example, what are your thoughts on Lydell Mitchell as a running back?
Well, I think Lydell's a great running back. He's played outstanding football for us. He's been a real leader. I don't think we've ever had a running back who's had a better season for us in the 22 years I've been at Penn State. I just think he's a great runner.
And Franco Harris?
Well, Harris has been bothered by a lot of injuries. He's had nagging pains. He had bruised ribs. He had a pulled hamstring. But when he's healthy, he's a very explosive runner. He just hasn't had the chance to get the timing and to get in the groove this year as he had in previous years. But I'm hopeful if he can have a good week of practice, he might be able to play well against Texas.
Do you feel there will be any sort of rivalry between the East and the Southwest in this game?
I don't really think there'll be any on our part. People say, well, you're coming down for revenge, and I don't know what they're talking about, revenge. This is the second time we've been invited to the Cotton Bowl, and I think that's pretty nice of you folks.
To the untrained eye, you might think I was standing next to a 55 Chevy station wagon with the top cut off and a bunch of wood nailed on it. Actually, this is the basis for some of those beautiful floats that you see every year in the Cotton Bowl Parade in Dallas. Floats like this one. The 1971 edition of the Cotton Bowl Parade in Dallas will be televised nationally. Everyone will see it from New York to California. The floats themselves are fascinating the way they're put together. This is one of the 20 floats which is appearing, and it's being put together by the Mid-Continent Exhibition President, Tom McNamara. Tom, what does a float like this cost?
Well, these floats will run from $6,000 to $10,000.
What kind of time are you talking about in order to put something like this together?
We're talking 350 to 450 man-hours.
Now, are you going to have this float put together by the time for the parade, January 1st?
Yes, we'll have it finished tomorrow night, 5 o'clock.
That's fantastic. This particular float we're looking at here is a little bit unusual. What in particular, for one thing, it looks like it's made out of a bunch of cans.
Yes, true. Everything that you see on this float is all aluminum. It is designed to tie in with the theme, the world of entertainment, as well as put the story across of recycling aluminum.
You've got, how many cans would you estimate are going into this thing?
3,000 cans, aluminum cans on this float.
Fantastic. One of the 20 that you will see, 20 or so I should say, that'll be in the 1971 edition of the Cotton Bowl Parade in Dallas. Malcolm Landers, the State Fairgrounds for Channel 8 News on the Move.
Yes, well, this is the only, he doesn't actually acknowledge mail. This is the only hint I have that he possibly received this letter with this quote, but it was 2 years ago.
Does he have a picture of your son? Have you sent him a picture of
He
your son?
acknowledged last year when I heard from him for the first time that he had seen a picture of him, but he doesn't actually mention pictures.
These letters were sent, he wrote them prior to Christmas. Did he say anything about looking forward to Christmas or the New Year, what was going through his mind?
He talks about having he wrote me an anniversary letter because we were married 10 years this November, and he wrote me another beautiful letter, and he said that next year he hoped that we'd be together.
Okay. All those prayers are with you that you will find your son Nathan alive. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, we certainly are experiencing a large help in this, and being a Christian, we have felt his presence with us as never before in our lives, as we've known thousands of people there in the States are behind us too, as well as here in Peru. We feel that everything humanly possible is being done, and we're confident that what does happen, this is a large will. Over.
The Haltom City Fire Chief says that last night's fire was set in 4 different locations in the church, 2 settings in the auditorium back office and 1 in the kitchen. Exactly what was used to set the fire is unknown at this time. The damage here is estimated at $100,000 by investigators. That makes a total of $120,000 in damages in both fires. Reverend Robert says he doesn't know who would do such a thing, but he did mention a bomb threat recently.
That was about 2 months ago. We had a bomb threat here right in the middle of the service, about 11 o'clock. Service was in process, actually.
Do you think there's any connection in that bomb threat and the fires?
I could have no idea because I have no direct contact.
Do you have any clues as to who may have set the fires?
No, I really don't.
No clues have turned up as yet that would pinpoint a person or persons who set these fires at the Friendly Lane Baptist Church. While the investigation continues, plans are being made for services later this week. Reverend Roberts says services will be held this Wednesday night and Sunday in Haltom Junior High School, just across the road. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move in Haltom City.
Well,
Well, probably my best game this season's been the Iowa game, my second game of the season. I think I had one touchdown. I had 209 yards rushing, but I just did everything well that day, blocking well also.
What do you like to do best? Do you like to run with the ball? Do you like to catch it?
Well, I'd rather run with the ball more so than catch the ball, but I think it's a break for a back to be able to catch a couple passes once in a while.
Now, of course, nobody can make All-American without the support of his teammates, and I'm sure you've had some fine support this year, have you not?
Definitely. Like, I think since I've been here, this year is the best line that we had at Penn State, and you know, from my performance alone, you can see that.
Have you studied Texas much, or are you going to spend this week studying their defensive?
Well, basically, Texas run the same defenses that Penn State does, and I seen them 2 reels of them, and what we saw, they looked good. I know they had a lot of injuries beginning of the season, but they're probably right now, gelling, and guys had a lot of time to heal, so they'll be tough.
What type of a game do you think it'll be personally?
Well, I think it's going to be a lot of scoring, because a team like that they have running that wishbone, it's hard to hold them scoreless the whole game. Without a doubt they're going to move the ball, and I also think we'll score too.
We move into areas which show a high level of intoxicated people, areas of taverns or areas of accident experience which have drinking drivers involved. And in fact, we've reduced our drinking involvement. At this time last year, it was 45% of all fatal accidents were drinking involved, and this year, I mentioned, it's 37%.
The incidence of drinking and driving is probably higher at this time of the year than any other. What are you doing at this point, especially with New Year's coming up?
We put officers on the street whose main purpose is to detect the drinking driver. At other times, we have worried about the speed factor, which is a major factor in fatal wrecks. But we have emphasized the drinking since this is the most identifiable factor in fatal accidents.
I've tendered my resignation to the City of White Settlement tonight because I feel that I can advance myself financially better in private business. In the 5 years that I've been with the City of White Settlement, I feel that the accomplishments we've had in our water, sewer, streets, and housing programs are very satisfying, and that at this time it would be best for me to leave the management of White Settlement to a very dedicated and hardworking City Council for these programs to be completed and for new programs to be started.
Well, we look forward to it helping in the long run, yes. Initially, of course, we don't know because this will require a rather substantial investment in order to get it started, but we can see that in the long run this probably will help the Dallas transit system as well as the Fort Worth transit system tremendously.
You've committed yourself now to a feasibility study. Does this mean that you have committed yourself to put this into operation?
Well, yes, in effect we have. We have not come to a contractual agreement yet with the airport board, but we will present them with a contract very soon and begin negotiations for contractual arrangements with them, yes.
Shortly after Congress convenes in January of 1972, I plan to testify before Senator Long's State Finance Committee when it holds hearing on House Resolution Number 1, the so-called Welfare Reform Bill. I will urge that the Congress accept the principle of complete federal financing of the nation's welfare program. If the total welfare program, including medical assistance, were federalized, it would mean a yearly savings to Texas of some $300 million. We are hopeful that these efforts will be successful, and that, at the very least, Texas will be protected from rising welfare costs.
I personally, as a community representative, don't feel like giving my time to discussing personalities at a board meeting pertaining to the poor. But this is the kind of thing you're going to run into with Mr. Smothers on the board. We run into it with 2 or 3 other people on the board. We run into it with Mr. Price's presence on the board. It's people who will forget the real issue of the poor and direct statements toward personalities. And that's what holds up the program.
Well, we're not abolishing the board, but because we are really the Tarrant County Hospital District Board of Managers will assume the function of the Board of Trustees of the MHMR Center. And the reason the change is being made is because the Board of Trustees of the MHMR Center had come to really the limit of their financial resources. And it's up to us, the Tarrant County Hospital District, to carry on mental health and mental retardation programs in the county.
Does this have anything to do with the troubles that have beset the MHMR board in the past due to personnel matters? No, not at all.
How will this save money for the board?
Well, we'll eventually, long term, it's going to save by bringing the MHMR facilities under one umbrella. Here at the hospital district, we will save money by avoiding a duplication of some staff responsibilities. I'm not saying that we're going to that anyone's going to be discharged there, but eventually this will save just overhead.